What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Scone, presented by Brock, the Boundary Roof Beauty Clinic, and Hudco Roofing, hudcoroofing.com. Do business with someone you know, Hudco Roofing, hudcoroofing.com. I appreciate y'all for being here on this Thursday. LSU got some really good news on Thursday with word that Will Campbell is back at practice and is expected to play on Saturday against Florida. So that's just massively significant. Just for the obvious reason of you're getting your starting left tackle back. So really big there. So really big as LSU hits the road. The offensive line clearly struggled against Tennessee. I mean, the offensive line has not been great this year, but they clearly struggled against Tennessee with no Will Campbell. And then with losing Garrett Dellinger as well, it caused a huge shuffle, right? So they announced Cam Wire would start at left tackle. Really, it was Bradford, so they moved Bradford from right guard to left tackle. So then you had a new left tackle, a new right guard, and then Dellinger got hurt, so you had a new left guard as well. In the end, the only guys in the positions where the first teamers were Charles Turner and Emory Jones. So one's a first-time starter at center, and one's a true freshman. So obviously, getting Will Campbell back makes your line more whole again. Campbell goes. Basically, the only position you're missing is left guard with Dellinger out. Everybody goes back to their normal spot. So that's great news as you head to Florida, who is 13th in the SEC against the run. They allow about 186 rush yards a game. So you have a real opportunity against Florida to maybe establish the run, establish the line of scrimmage like you did in the second half against Auburn, and for a good chunk of the game against Mississippi State as well. So that's big. The other news from Wednesday was that Jameis was back at practice, limited but back. My point will continue to be, if I think we would all agree that Andy Dalton is not your future, right? We would all agree Andy Dalton is not going to be your franchise quarterback for the next half decade. You have to find out if Jameis Winston can be. I know a lot of you have already punted that, so I'm not sitting there trying to convince you of anything. Ultimately, his play will have to do that. I'm just not ready to punt that whole idea that he could be, but I want to see him with a healthy back. I'm not going to take a small 2-game sample size where he was playing with a broken back and say, okay, that's the determination I'm going to make on if this guy can be my team's franchise quarterback. So we'll see. But he practiced yesterday, limited. We'll see how much closer he gets to playing on Sunday. I'll be honest again, I do not want him to play this week. I do not want Jameis to play this week or next. I don't know how. I want him to have a week of full participation. That would be my criteria. And then keep in mind, not only do you play this week, but then you turn around on a short week to play on Thursday. So I don't know that I want that quick turnaround for him either. So that's kind of where they are right now. All right, let's say some good mornings. Y'all know the drill. Fire away. Questions, comments, anything y'all got. Appreciate y'all for being here. YouTube, please smash that like button. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. All right, Ryan Amanda Guidry, Truax, what's good, man? Jason Horn, Kelly Gross, David Coslin, Michael Kleber, Eric Gullett, good morning. Hey, Dad, good morning. Let's see, Ryan, Florida will pound the ball. Defense will have its hands full. Yeah, Ryan, that's true. But I also believe that this is a game that probably it's a better matchup for LSU's defense. It's a see-ball, hit-ball matchup where you have a good offensive line, athletic quarterback, and a couple of nice running backs, and they're going to try to ride those guys. But I'll remind you, man, when you look at Florida's scores this year, I mean, aside from playing Eastern Washington, they have struggled. They've struggled to score. They beat Utah 29-26, and that was a game where they scored in the games on their last play. Remember, fourth down, and they needed a few Superman type plays from Anthony Richardson just to get there. Kentucky, they only scored 16 at home. South Florida, they beat 31-28. Tennessee is the one that most people will point to. That was a game where Tennessee was up big. Florida scored late. Give them credit for scoring late, but that wasn't like they went toe-to-toe for 4 quarters type game. They blew out Eastern Washington, then scored just 24 at home against Missouri. So that's a game where I don't think you're going to see Florida put up 40, right? So it's going to be a game that feels like it's much more in reach for LSU at any point, and whichever team makes mistakes is going to put themselves behind the 8 ball. And quite honestly, this year that's been Florida. And I get it. LSU's had the muff punts against Florida State and the fumbled opening kickoff against Tennessee. I'm talking about Anthony Richardson's turnovers have been a problem this year. It's just a better matchup for LSU than Tennessee was. I'm not saying that LSU's a better team. I'm saying this is a better matchup. It's like in baseball. If you're a left-handed hitter who likes to hit breaking ball pitchers over a guy who's got a wipeout slider, I'm just making some up, as opposed to a hard-throwing lefty. Well, you might be facing a really good, sinker ball pitcher, but you're facing a righty sinker ball, which is a better matchup for you than a hard-throwing lefty who throws 100, right? I don't know if that makes sense. That might not be a great analogy. Brad David, be kind. Good morning, Jesse Brown. All I want for Christmas is a healthy Saints injury report. There were 14 guys on the injury report yesterday. By comparison, I think Cincinnati had 4 or 5. Trivia Carter, Hunter Broadhead. Good morning, Matt. Is there anything that worries you about Florida? Yeah, Anthony Richardson's ability to pop off, because he is explosive. I mean, you saw it against Utah. I mean, he's got that ability when a play's breaking down to stiff arm a guy, leap through the air, roll, outrun an entire defense. Like, he's got that type of ability. I mean, but that's the thing I think that you have to protect most against. Be very sound in how you tackle. Brett DeGrow, Huey Lipsy, more Matt. A family relative, Will Campbell. Yeah, I'm not going to read that, Huey. Sorry. Like, I don't want to. That's great, but I'm not going to put out information that's not that's not sourced and not confirmed. So let's just say it's good that Will's back. Larry Garner, Joseph Feltwell. Good morning. I think Rashid Shaheed will be big for the return game for the Saints. Yeah, so they did elevate Rashid Shaheed, undrafted rookie, really good returner from a small school. Maybe another Deontay Hardy. I'm curious how they use Marquez Callaway. Maybe because Callaway has to elevate as a receiver with some of the injuries, maybe they don't want him in the return game. That was done out of necessity last week because Hardy got hurt during the game, and so did Olave. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how he does for sure. Brian Williams, Eric Bertrand. Let's see, Winston needs to sit out 2 or 3 more games, in my opinion. Well, Brian, I don't think it's your opinion or my opinion. It's when can he go through a full week as a full participant? That would be the litmus test for me, because I don't need an injured Winston. Who's to say that's not, as you said, 2 weeks or 3 weeks? What if it's 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 8 weeks? I don't know. I don't want him running out there trying to play injured when you have a healthy Andy Dalton is a better option than an injured Jameis Winston. Let's see, Brad, do you think the 05-06 LSU teams were good enough to win a championship? It looked like Les really let it slip away with all the talent they had. 06 for sure. 06 is arguably the most talented team LSU had until other than like 11 and 19. Yeah, I mean 06, no doubt. You lost to Auburn 7-3. And you lost the game at Florida where, Tebow's jump pass and, said Hester scored. You reviewed it, said he didn't. That was just a tough day in Gainesville. Like, it's a game. The 2 games LSU lost that year were insanely winnable. and LSU '06 was a much better team than '07. Well, they were more. Let me say they were more talented team than '07. It's not to say '07 didn't have talent; they did. But '06, yeah. I mean, think of it this way: who is that? Brad. '06 and '07 both lost 2 games. '07 just, had circumstantially the opportunity to go to Atlanta, win it, and then a lot of things fall their way to get to play for a championship. Saints are in dire need of a future quarterback, hopefully next draft. The hard thing about that, Huey, is you don't have a high draft pick. So I don't know how you draft a quarterback, a first rounder next year. I don't know how you don't have the assets to get in position to do that unless you start trading current, team assets to acquire picks to be able to make that move. Which, boy, that's a risky game. Wendell Norman, Ryan Rogers. Good morning. Enjoyed Scone and Tea last night. Yeah, thanks, man. We appreciate everybody who watches, everybody who comes out to Scone and Tea at Oliver Twist on Wednesday nights. It's a good time, and they're great hosts. It's a great setting for what we do. Food's great too if you're ever looking for lunch or dinner. Oliver Twist, great spot. Eric, a discussion you and T-Bob were having last night got me thinking of our 16 offensive quarters against Power 5 teams. How many do you think we're good for? Oh, I'd have to go back and look. Put me on the spot a little bit with that one, Eric. Let me look into that and give you a more definitive answer later. Yo, Hobbs. Let's see. How would you grade Brian Kelly so far? Was he the right hire? So I would say, I mean, he gets passing grades across the board. But this isn't the answer many of you want to hear. I'm just not going to overvalue wins and losses this year because I don't I picked this team to go 8-4. I thought they'd be 4-4 in the league. The only difference so far with what they've done, what I picked, was I thought they'd beat Florida State. They didn't. Everything else, is kind of happened. I thought it would. I picked them to beat State, picked them to beat Auburn, picked them to lose to Tennessee. I mean, it's, I think it's gone the way that I expected it might. So I thought they'd be a little better on offense, maybe not quite this good on defense, but certainly I didn't anticipate all of the special teams problems, but that's something you learn as you go along. But the biggest thing for Kelly is just getting buy-in. I know that sounds a little abstract, but maybe a lot abstract, but it's true, man. Like, you got the best comp is going back to Saban's first year. And, Saban inherited a team off back-to-back losing seasons where they fired the coach. They had an interim for the last game. Saban didn't have to completely make over the roster because of transfers. I mean, that was another hurdle that Kelly had to climb. But, Saban had to bring in a new staff and had to change the way people thought, and it just all that sort of stuff. And Kelly had a similar circumstance. So, I just didn't have grand expectations for the on-field product this year. Just wanted to see progress. I wanted to see buy-in. I wanted to see recruiting. I wanted to see competency, and that's happened so far. Weston Weaver, good morning. Who wins the Tennessee-Bama matchup? I'm picking Tennessee to win the game. Thought about it last night at Scone and Tea. I'm picking Tennessee to win. Greg Self, good morning. Ryan Rogers, would you agree without Bryce Young, Bama could get beat by 3 touchdowns? No, I don't know that I would go that far because I think Alabama's defense is still really good, and they're still Alabama, and they have talent, and they can hand the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs, and he can make plays. But here's what I said on Scone and Tea last night. I think Alabama, even with Bryce Young at times this year, struggled to score because their receivers are not very good. It's the biggest difference between what we traditionally see with Alabama is they do not have great receiving talent this year. And I think what's going to happen in this game is they either play Milroe, Alabama plays Milroe, and he turns the ball over like we saw him do against A&M. And that gives Tennessee extra possessions. Or they start Bryce Young with a bum shoulder, and he's inaccurate and might even, I don't wish this on anyone, but if you're going to start a quarterback with a bum shoulder against a defense which thrives on pressure, sacking the quarterback, tackles for loss, Bryce Young is going to take serious hits, and I would hate to think that he further injures himself. And if Bryce Young did leave the game, then look at what happened against Arkansas when Bryce Young left mid-game. Alabama was in control of that game. Bryce Young got hurt, and Arkansas, the groundswell of emotion came, and Arkansas darn near caught him. And then, Milroe ripped off a 70-yarder, and then Jahmyr Gibbs ripped off a couple 70-yarders, and that was that. But Tennessee is just more dynamic, and they're at home and all that sort of stuff. Michael Blanco, what do you think of Stephen A. Smith's comments on Brian Kelly and the players being disgruntled? I did not see Stephen A. Smith's comments on Brian Kelly. What I'll say is Stephen A. Smith does not cover college football, and I would not believe anything that Stephen A. Smith had to say about college football. NBA, yes, intimately connected, has been for a long time, but Stephen A.'s a New York guy that doesn't follow college football, so I have nothing. If that were coming from Ross Dellinger, I always say consider the source. That was coming from Dellinger. If that was coming from, the Brody or Shea or people who cover the team every single day, that's different. Rabelais, it's just, I'm not. What's Stephen? Has Stephen A. Smith ever been to Baton Rouge? Oh, come on. Trey Fisher, good morning. Dale Broussard has 7 banks available. No, he's not, Dale. They said that his injury was going to be an injury similar to the time frame of Major Burns, which was probably about a month or a little bit more. Jerry Fontenot, Bubba Smith, Michael Thacker, morning. What do you think of... Okay, another Stephen A. comment. Jacob Swallow, good morning. Eric Hart, Brian Broom, Jeremy Sagely, good morning. Dale Broussard, what is your target price for a GMEX exit? So I don't think I would ever exit completely, Dale. I think that has to be, again, not investment advice at all, but I think everyone has to have their own strategy as far as profit taking. So when would you sell to take profits? That's what you should target, and that's not a price. That's universal because that's based on what your position is, how much coin you own, where you bought in, right, all that sort of stuff. Brian Arsenault, I don't know why, but I have a feeling LSU will have several takeaways this week, which will be the key to winning this game. Just a feeling. Gut feelings. I love going on gut feelings. Hunter Eilers, you could have told me that Anthony Richardson has 7 interceptions on the season, all of them in the last 3 games, and so because he's turnover prone, LSU's likely to be able to take the ball away. And that would be a more sound answer than gut feeling. But to each their own. Hunter Eilers, have you made a prediction yet for Saturday's game? I haven't, Hunter. I haven't really decided which direction I'm going. I'm leaning Florida. I think Florida will win at home. But I think LSU's got a great chance to beat Ole Miss in Baton Rouge next week. Keith Artis, good morning, Scone. I've been enjoying whiskey and wine more than the actual LSU game lately. Keep up the good work. Thank you, man. Will Myers, do you have a play on Baylor, West Virginia? Will, I'm going to tell you, man, straight up, I'm going to wait to hear what Jimmy has to say as far as, betting the spread tonight. Jimmy and his band, I don't know if y'all noticed, Jimmy was 3-0 last night. He gave you ULL plus 10.5. He gave you first 5 with the Phillies, which hit. And he gave you San Diego, moneyline play on the Padres, who won. He was 3-0 last night. Dude has been in fuego. I'm telling you, it's just his baseball bets have fallen off a bit since he went to Del Mar. But I'm going to wait to see what he has to say about that game tonight with Baylor and West Virginia. It's a good Thursday night game, by the way. So I am excited to watch that tonight. And because look, it's the Bears are on Thursday night NFL football tonight. So you got Baylor, West Virginia. You also have Temple, Central Florida tonight. Central Florida is a huge favorite in that game. The Gus Bus down there, but tough spot for Baylor, I think, on the road. And JT Daniels has actually been pretty good. I kind of lean West Virginia there. I know it's not been good. They're 2-3 on the season. They just kind of got skunked at Texas. But they are at home on a Thursday night. Big opponent coming in. Crowd should be good. So I kind of lean Baylor in this game. I'm sorry, West Virginia at home in this game. But we'll see. Both teams coming off losses last week. All right, smash that like button. If you're on YouTube, please do us a favor. Smash that like button. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. That's a good question. Where is it? I lost it, my bad. It was... Brad said on Thursday night, would you prefer to watch a good college game or an NFL game? It really depends who's playing. Like, when the Bengals were on Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to watch Burrow and those guys. And like, if it's a relevant NFL game that I want to see. If I'm completely agnostic, like if it's like tonight, Washington against Chicago is a terrible football game that I have no interest whatsoever in watching. So I would probably lean to Baylor, West Virginia. And if that got out of hand, I'd flip over to the NFL game. But I'd probably I'll have both of them on. But it really depends on, what games are on. Sean McKinnon, Matt, if you had to pick one, more of an LSU fan, more of a Saints fan, yeah, I can't pick one. That's just, come on. That's like, what kid do you love the most? Good luck answering that. Tony Cortello, Auburn quarterback, threw for 300 yards. Jordan Love had a good game. Hooker played flawless against us. Richardson has similar skill set. What gives you confidence we can slow them down enough to win? So it's not Jordan Love. Jordan Love's quarterback of the Packers, by the way. And the Auburn QB, Robbie Ashford, basically did that on 2 plays. There was the busted coverage play that went for 53, and then the wheel route that went for 61. So half of that came on 2 plays. And LSU shut out Auburn in the second half. So context matters. You have to define that, Tony. And Hooker is great and has great receivers. What I'll tell you about Richardson is Florida does not have good receivers. So, and Richardson does not have a similar skill set to Hooker. That's erroneous. Hendon Hooker is accurate and throws the prettiest deep ball maybe in the country. Richardson does not. He is not an accurate quarterback. Hooker has not turned the ball over. Richardson has thrown 7 interceptions this year. So that's probably the biggest point of contention, I would say, is Florida is not actually in any way a dynamic passing offense. And Richardson is not even close to Hendon Hooker as far as a thrower or a passer right now. But Richardson is a far more dynamic runner than Hendon Hooker. So, yeah, I mean, and back to the point, slow him down. Look at the only games this year where Florida scored more than 30 are Eastern Washington and South Florida. Eastern Washington, South Florida. The only SEC game where they scored more than 30 or Power 5 game was the Tennessee game. And they were way behind, and give them credit for catching up in the fourth quarter. The game was over at that point. Much better matchup. I'm not saying LSU's going to win it, but what I'm saying is it's a much better matchup for LSU's defense going against the Florida offense than what they faced last week. Renee Marks, Keith Artist, Hal Hunter, go to LSU coach. Only undefeated coach in LSU history, right? John Forret, good morning, or Foray. Astros Braves championship. I have Yankees Braves World Series. That's what I picked before the season. I'll stick to it. Dustin Cruel, Matt, I asked you how long before we win with the new coach when we were letting O go, and you said this year. What do you mean how long we win? Like, what does that mean? Define that. Like, win what? Father John David Mathern told a buddy of mine to put a future bet on Hendon Hooker to win the Heisman before Saturday. Oh, wow. Currently plus 700. If Tennessee wins, he'll most likely jump to the favorite. Still has the Georgia game. Yeah, it's not a bad bet. I mean, if they keep winning, that's really good odds right now. Vernell Thomas, good morning. Dustin, win big. So Dustin, you have to define win big, and then honestly, you'd also have to remind me when we had that conversation. Was it before LSU had 39 scholarship players in a bowl game? I mean, all that matters, man. The context matters. Last year, when they fired Ed, you were looking at a roster that still was full of dudes that would produce 10 draft picks a year ago, right? He woefully underperformed with a talented roster a year ago. That's why I got fired. Actually, 2 years in a row, which is why I got fired. And then there was a bloodletting. I mean, all that context matters. So I think it's fair to say, and you would agree, as new information presents, it's okay to alter. I mean, I'm assuming that you're right with the conversation. I don't remember the conversation you're talking about. I answer hundreds of questions on here every day, like literally every day of my life. But yes, expectations at LSU should always be to win. I think you also have to have a realistic expectation this season with what the staff inherited as far as a roster and the giant turnover that they had. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's going to last forever, bro. Like, I'm not saying you get a grace period for 3 to 5 years or anything like that. Like, there better be progress, like significant progress year 1 or year 2. Like, I don't want to see LSU next year losing 40-13 to anybody. Like, especially with the transfer portal, with the opportunity that you have to supplement your roster, with the hard cap of 25 gone and able to sign as many as you want. Like, you should be back at 85 next year. And I'm not saying you should be competing to win a national championship because I don't know who the quarterback's going to be next year. But you should be in a much more stable place next football season than you are right now. And if they're not, like if they're still in a similar position where you're so bad in spots and starting freshmen all over the place that if you're losing games 40-13, like that's a problem. Like you better make progress next year. Shoot, you better make progress throughout this year. All right, a couple more. YouTube, smash that like button. Facebook, like the page, share the post. Brett DeGrow, Matt, are you going to the bottle share Friday night for BSOBR? I am not. Going to have date night on Friday night. Jeremy Nuslot, good morning. Your fun say, Joseph Feltwell, do you think Dennis Allen needs to focus more on defense during the bye and let Pete focus on offense? How do you think they're handling that? I think that is how they're handling it. I mean, look, Dennis Allen still, you could see he's got the play sheet. He's still calling the defense. So I don't think Dennis Allen is tampering with the offense, but that's a good question to ask. Birds fly south, Eagles fan in Lafayette, Louisiana. Eagles fan in Louisiana. All I can say is when the Saints get healthy, NFL's in trouble. Saints got the dog in them. We'll see, man. How the heck did you end up an Eagles fan in Lafayette? Jeff, what's up, my dude? Good morning. Let's see. Vernell, good morning. Saints secondary looks thin this week. They have all year. Todd Harris, do you feel the O-line running back position is the main area that needs to be rebuilt? But keep in mind, Todd, like also your secondary. Like, you have all transfers back there. I mean, all those guys that you brought in this year, they're all gone after this year. Jarpinar, Converse, Mekhi Gardner. I think Richardson might be. Richardson's gone. Brooks, Fouché, they're all gone after this year. So, I mean, this was a stopgap year. Like Brian Kelly, the way that I compare this is Will Wade's first year at LSU. He inherited a total disaster, coming off the worst season in 50 years. He could have just built with freshmen, taken your lumps, had another awful year, but got him experience. But he went out and got a whole bunch of transfers as a bridge to at least be competitive. And they made the NIT and won a game in the NIT. Like, that's what this is. But year 2, he won the SEC. Now, I don't think LSU's winning the SEC next year. But, not saying they can't. But a lot of the people you brought in this year were brought in with the intent of just creating a bridge to let younger guys get experience, rebuild the roster, try to win some games this year, be more competitive, and then have more of your program guys take over next year. All right, Brian Arsenault, do you think Howard will see the field anytime this year? I guess he could against UAB. Okay, I think we're done. Ryan Rogers date night with E-Rock has to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be a fun night. Looking forward to it. Okay, guys, thanks so much for watching. And ladies, as always, we appreciate y'all. If you're on YouTube, please smash that like button. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. As always, shout out to Brock. Remember the Brock Free Friday Night Clinic for all high school athletes in the area. If any high school football players injured on Friday night, Brock for 30 some odd years has offered a free Friday night clinic to all the athletes to get checked out. Awesome service that they provide through the Brock Foundation. Of course, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Hudco is pinned there in the comments, so if you would, do me a solid, take a quick second, click on that link right on the home page. There's a contact form. Literally take you 30 seconds to fill it out, and we'll set up to give you a free, no obligation roofing inspection. We'll come check out your roof. If you have damage, we'll help you file a claim. We'll work with your insurance adjuster to get your claim approved and get you a new roof or get your roof repaired. So we appreciate it. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. All right, y'all. LSU Daily is already live. Your favorite podcast app, check it out. LSU Daily, AFR at 3, and we'll see you. Y'all have a great day. Peace.